watch the video.
That's it. I'm not going to answer on this topic. I'm just going to watch your video. Okay, so click
Yes,
the link
it's all
below
in
to
there.
watch E's video, and you'll learn everything you can about having no access to the court.
Yes, and subscribe while you're there.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Game Day Glare. I'm Lance. I'm with E. This is the podcast for sports videographers. How you doing, E?
Very good. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Been busy. It's been not easy to shoot outdoors lately because there's been so much rain around here. It only rains on weekends for some reason. I don't know if that happens where our listeners are, but it only rains on weekends here. Monday to Thursday, it's very nice out, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just pure rain. So it's been interesting. But no, I got a couple of big projects coming up. I got a big corporate actually that I'm working on this week. That I just got wrapped up, did some scripting, some planning, shot lists, all that stuff. And yeah, so I'm excited to do that. What about you?
To do that.
To do that.
Yeah, working on YouTube videos. Nothing too special. I'm trying to think if I haven't shot anything since the last time we spoke. So same old, I'd say. But yeah, working on YouTube videos. I got a couple coming up that I need to get to. But yeah, like you, just hoping for good weather. And I live in the part of town where this past weekend was what's the name in English? Like the Tour de l'Île, the cycling thing.
Oh, yes. So they have this bicycle ride all over Montreal where they block every road around your house. Yes, Rosemary, right?
Yeah, but it's like different every year. It's like a different part of the city. But like the last couple of years, it's been really like pretty much where I live. So you have to plan your. Well, it wasn't too bad. I was on the outside of it, but when you're in the middle, that's when if you have something to do that day. Once they block all these roads, you're kind of boxed in and you can't go anywhere. So yeah, that was my weekend.
Great weekend, eh? Great weekend, Boxing. All right, so we'll get to today's topic. So today is like Mythbusters. You ever see the show Mythbusters on Discovery? So we get asked a lot of questions throughout our platforms, you on YouTube, me through Game Day Glare. So we thought we'd kind of answer some of the sports videographer myths out there.
And bust them.
Exactly. And the idea is to kind of go like, hey, bust it, confirmed, or it depends, and give our answer. Okay. So maybe we have a list of 15. So maybe we'll do them like alternately. I'll ask one, you ask one, and then we can both give our opinions anyway on certain ones. But the thing about sports videography is there's many ways to tackle this job. And hopefully from this list, you kind of understand a little bit better on how you can approach it in your shoots. So you want to start first, or you want me to start first?
Well, I can ask the first question.
All right.
Which is, do you have to shoot in 4K to shoot sports?
I'm going to say bust it. No, you don't have to shoot in 4K. It's preferred to shoot in 4K, especially if you edit still in 1080 because you can zoom in. It helps you that way. But no, man, I don't think 4K is a necessity to start. If you do eventually build up your career and get to a pro team, then yes, you are required to shoot in the highest resolution possible, whether it's 4K, 6K, 8K, whatever you have, your cameras they have, you film in the highest resolution possible. But for when you're starting out, no, you do not need 4K. I think you're better off to shoot in 1080, something you're comfortable with, and work on composition, work on your framing, work on your storytelling. That's what I think. What about you?
Yeah, I'm on the same side, so I'm going to give you a pretty short answer instead of repeating everything you said. So yeah, I do think that it's 1080 rather than 4. Basically, I think if you have like a budget camera and you have to choose between 4K and a higher frame rate, like a 60 or 120, I would definitely go with the 1080 with a high frame rate, then go 4K with 24 or 30 or 25 frames per second. So yeah, I don't think that 4K is absolutely necessary. I think like image quality on, especially on social media, is overrated in a sense that like we we're the only ones noticing it half the time. Most people don't even notice or care if there's a bit less quality in your image. So don't overthink it. And yeah.
Actually, you know what? It's funny. So on my A7 IV, I've shot in 1080. It shoots 1080 and 120. But if I want to shoot it in 10 bit, I have to use S and Q. And if I use the S and Q, I can shoot 4K. I can shoot 1080, 120 frames per second in log. But if I don't do that, I can't. So it's just a little hack. So, I've done it plenty of times where I'm not shooting in 4K because I want the 120 frames, and that's just what that camera has to offer. So that's why part of my answer was like, you don't need 4K. All right, I got the next question for you. Does the best camera equal the best footage? Now, we're always getting asked about cameras, right? So that's why this question came out, because people are always asking us. Like, you get it all the time. What's the best camera I should use? What should I use? So how do you answer that? Is it busted? Is it confirmed, or it depends?
Well, no, it's busted in the sense that, well, I mean, in theory, yes, like the best camera gives you the best tools to get the best footage. But if you're a beginner and you're just starting and you don't really know much about how to expose properly, how to work on your composition and things like that, having the best camera is not going to solve all your problems, which is often the myth, where people thinking that all they need to do is have a great camera and all of a sudden everything's going to look great. And then the next thing you know, that's when they reach out and say like, oh, my camera is the same as yours and my footage doesn't look as good. Well, it's just because half their settings are on automatic and they don't really know how to expose properly and things like that. So it's more about the skills than about the camera.
I
What
agree.
do you think?
Shoot with what you have. It's the only way you're going to start getting content out there. It's the only way you're going to realize what else you want to do. Like, say if you start with an iPhone and then you eventually want to upgrade to a mirrorless camera, you're going to understand the reasons why you want to do that upgrade, why you're willing to spend the money on more expensive gear. But basic storytelling, just start with whatever camera you have.
Well, so far we're agreeing on everything.
So we're in sync. We're in sync, you and I,
Yeah. All right. Next question: is a gimbal a must-have for sports shooters?
For me, this really depends. And my way of thinking about gimbals has changed over the year, just like I'm sure yours has too, only from using gimbal a little more. I feel like it's not a necessary piece of equipment to go and buy right away, because you don't really need it, and you're not going to use it all that much. But for establishing shots, for warm ups, for feature pieces, you can get some beautiful cinematic shots with a gimbal. So that's when I would add it to my bag or my kit that day. So I mean, you can still tell the story without it, but it definitely adds value to your story, especially when done right. For those slow push-ins of the arena when you walk in and you see the court for the first time, or that player. You have something in the foreground and you pan left to see that player. You can do it with a tripod and that, or a monopod, but I feel like the gimbal, you can get nice and close to these players, and I feel like the gimbal is a great way to tell your story, but it's definitely not necessary.
Yeah, again, I agree. I think it's a very cool thing to have, but it's not that necessary. It's you can definitely do without it. But if you do have it, then it gives you an extra edge. It gives you the ability to be more creative. It gives you the ability to make more dynamic shots because you can add a lot of movement and still be stable and have those movements look good. Where if you try to do it handheld, a lot of the times they'll be just like a little. I try to do like push-ins sometimes, even though I'm on, I've got my IBIS on and even active stabilization and a super wide lens. There's always just a little moment where it just goes like doop, and it just ruins the whole thing. And because active also is always trying to readjust, so it's trying to fix what you're doing. So there's always a little moment where it just went too far, and then it's bringing it back to the center. So there's like a little shift. So yeah, so a gimbal will definitely do much better job at doing push-ins or like dolly movement. Uh, yeah, than you trying to do it on like active stabilization. So if you can use a gimbal, do it, but all those movements are not necessary. You can always the more stuff is moving in front of you, the less movement technically you have to do. So sports, for example, can be shot with just like static shots, like locked in shots on tripods, because there's so much movement in the scene itself that you don't really need to move. The camera movements are just there to, to make it better, to make it more creative, more dynamic, like I was saying, but they're not necessary.
The one thing I will add about gimbals is the longer you wait to add a gimbal to your kit, the better the gimbals get. Every year they come out with a better gimbal that has a better payload, more stabilization. So if you don't have a gimbal, then just wait and wait for the newest version to come out and then get that one. It's probably the only piece of equipment I would suggest that if you hear a new version's coming, wait for that new version. Where a camera, I would say go get the camera you want right away, shoot right away. But a gimbal, they're always upgrading and they're always getting better. So that's the only piece of equipment I would say, like wait for the newer model to come out. If you hear rumors of new one coming out. All right. I got next question for you. Do you need the fastest lens possible for sports? Example, f 2.8 or 1.8?
Absolutely not. Basically, I think that I typically film at f4 unless I'm really my image is way too dark, and it's the only thing I can adjust to help the situation. But otherwise, I'm usually at f4. So no, I think at f2.8 or f1 point something, if you're using a prime, um, usually it's very hard to get the focus like at the right place, the right time, unless you're filming like extreme close-ups. So for that reason, there's so much movement. The depending on the sport as well. Obviously, if it's an individual sport, it's a lot easier. But team sports, there's just so many faces, so much stuff going on. So unless you're filming in manual focus and you have total control, yeah, I wouldn't bother. Like, it's good to have a 2.8 lens. Don't get me wrong, because usually you get sharper, like at the minimum aperture. That's not usually where your lens is the sharpest. It's usually the image looks a bit sharper if let's say you use a 2.8. If you're at like 3 point something 4, that's when it starts really being at its peak sharpness. So having a 2.8, even if you don't use it at 2.8, it's still an advantage, but it's not necessary.
No. It's way too hard to keep in focus. I do think those lenses are key, like a 2.8 or lower. If you're doing a lot of storytelling and you're doing a lot of interview style to go with your sports videography, so say for instance the Last Dance, say like all those interview shots with Michael Jordan, then yeah, you want the fastest lens as possible for those, so you can get that nice blurry background and it's easier to control the light with it. But that's in a controlled light situation and your subject isn't really moving, so you can lock the focus on them. And that's the only way I would see that lens really important for sports videography.
No, I agree. Next question. Should you always shoot in log when filming sports? Do you
No.
filming in log?
I film in
I
log.
don't
I
even
film
know.
in log now. I used to not. I used to not film in log at all. I used to film in S Cinetone all the time. But now that I have two cameras, I just film in log. It's just easier to match it. There's less mistakes on my end, I feel. But log is not mandatory, especially in sports when you have a fast turnaround. Make sure you get your color, your white balance done and your colors the way you want, and I think you're good to go, because we got to edit stuff right, say at halftime or the quarter, export this clip for social media. You don't always have time to color grade. It is nice to do it, but it's not necessary. Now you only shoot in log, so
But yeah, it's not that I think that it's like absolutely necessary for everyone. Again, it depends on the camera you're using. Like if it's if you're filming in 8-bit S-Log2, like I'm not sure you're getting the best. You're in the best situation. Like it's probably going to be hard to color correct anyway afterwards. So maybe it's not the best idea. But if you have a camera that can do like S-Log3 10-bit, for example, personally, I would shoot everything in log. Um, and even in the situation that you mentioned, I mean, you do technically save a step by shooting in S and a tone, for example. But at the same time, like that's what LUTs are for. So like using a LUT, like when I've done like game day stuff where I'm turning edits on the spot, I'll just add a LUT, and unless there's something dramatically wrong with my exposure, like I'll just leave it as is. And if I hadn't done it on the day, if I was like producing something the next day or the during the week, I would probably touch it up a bit more and add some creative looks or something. But on the day of, I just put on a conversion LUT, and that's pretty much it. So it doesn't really take that much extra time, and it allows me to then use that footage in other circumstances. So that's why if I have the equipment to do it properly, I would definitely always shoot in log, which is what I do.
The advantage of always shooting a log is later on when you go back through games from the past, it's very easy to match up that footage. Where if you're shooting with a profile, your white balance could be off a little bit that day, or you're a little underexposed that day. Where when you're shooting in log, it's very, very easy to fix that and match all your footage from game one of the season to the last game of the season.
And it's also like where you have the most dynamic range. So technically, it'll look better because having super bright white uniforms, for example, in a situation where the rest of the scene is a bit dark, so you're always struggling to like, oh, my background or the other players or their skin tone look kind of dark, but as soon as I push it up, then the uniforms are sort of overexposed. And it's like if you're using a picture profile, that's probably what can happen depending on the camera. But if you're using log, and it's like there's a lot more dynamic range, and that situation is a lot less likely to happen. Next question. Is it my turn or your turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn.
It's always my turn. Is more slow motion always better?
Whew, it depends. I like slow motion. In sports, I like slow motion, especially when you have a nice slow motion shot and then you speed ramp it a bit and you come back to slow. I'm a big fan of slow motion. The thing is, depends on your edit. If I'm doing a feature piece and I have time, like say I have a minute, or so let's say I have 2 minutes to edit my piece, well then yeah, I'm definitely getting a slow motion clip in there somewhere to help tell my story, especially when you got like a good sound effects and a good beat where you can put it on. I love it. The hard part I find with slow motion is reels. Like on reels, people want to see action. You got to capture their attention. I find it a challenge to use slow motion in a short reel, especially if it's like a 10 to 15-second reel. Like you don't have time for a slow motion shot. So it's really, really tricky. Personally, I love them, but I feel like they're getting harder and harder to use in my edits, especially when people want quick dynamic reels all the time.
Yeah, no, it's true, but at the same time, you can have slow motion, but still make it move quick with jump cuts and things like that. So I would still, but in saying that, like I don't think I overuse slow motion. I probably have in the past, but these days, editing much shorter videos, I don't use it as much. I'll use a speed ramp, but I'll definitely won't do like a you know slow motion from start to finish with slow build up like dramatic music. Like I used to do that when I was producing hype reels that would play on the big screen at the start of a game, and I'd go for like 2.5 minutes. But when now, even on the big screen, I haven't done it for a long time, to be honest. But they rarely go over a minute and a half. So even there, like you definitely have time to put a few slow motion shots, but rarely would a video be all slow motion. So it's definitely not as popular as it used to be, but it's always a good tool to accentuate like big moments in your videos. So I wouldn't stop filming at high frame rates just because I use it less. Let's put it that way. I don't know if that busts a myth or not. Yeah, it's true.
Some people post clips of just a slow motion play too,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So that
true.
you could use
Yeah,
them.
it's true that there's a lot of content that is just like one scene, not necessarily like a package video. Is just like that one big score or that one moment in the game, and there's usually a speed ramping in those that type of content.
Your go-to move, your go-to move, speed ramp. All right. Now, this is a question that comes back from 2 episodes ago. Are you ready? Can you
Uh,
make a great video without field access?
yeah. Well, I'm
So did you
actually
go through
working
all
on the
your
video.
footage of the game that got stopped halfway through?
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely making the video, but yeah, I don't have much, so it's not the footage from that game is not there's not everything in the video is from that game. Basically, let's put it that way. But yeah, I do think that you can. That's what my next YouTube video will be about. Well, actually, by the time this comes out, the video will probably be out already. But yeah, I do think that you can. It's just a matter of using the right lenses from the right spots and using them the right way, and going to the right positions. And if you want to know what all those right things are, just watch the video.
That's it. I'm not going to answer on this topic. I'm just going to watch your video. Okay. So click the
Yes,
link
it's all
below
in
to
there.
watch E's video, and you'll learn everything you can about having no access to the court.
Yes, and subscribe while you're there. I need the support.
there, there you go. This is not a sponsored podcast, by the way.
Yeah. No. Do you need to upgrade your camera every 2 years to stay relevant? I know my answer, but yours might be different.
It's hard, right? I would say it depends. And I'm going to say it depends because I feel like if you look at action cameras, say like GoPros and drones and that, those I would upgrade every 2 years for sure, because there's always newer technology coming out, more stabilization, all that stuff, and they take a beating after a while. So it is good to upgrade those, and you can still sell them while they still have a little bit of value. But when I look at like a mirrorless camera, I'm going to say no, because like the go-to camera for everybody is an FX3, and that is at 4 years old right now. Or the Sony A7S III, it's 4 years old. A7 IV, 3 years old. They're still coming out with new firmware and new updates for them. So they're telling us that these cameras are relevant.
So the FX2 just came out. Yeah. It's basically a mix of the A7 IV and the FX. Well, it's an A7 IV and an FX3 body. Basically, that's what it is.
It's an A7 IV. It's an A7 IV. But that's an interesting camera because it's something that no one asked for. Now I can see people who have an FX3 and want a second camera. That is a good, cheaper solution to pair with it.
But it's not the same sensor though, so it's not going to look exactly the same. Yeah.
My A7 IV is sharper than my FX3.
Oh yeah, no, I don't doubt that. But I'm more like, if you're looking for a second camera that's going to look exactly the same, it probably won't, because they're different sensors and things like that. So it's like, I think it's a good second camera, and I'm definitely changing the subject right now. Like,
It's
I think it's
okay.
a good second camera in the sense that it can take great photos. So if you're looking for a second camera that's probably going to take more photos than just like just focus on video, then yeah. But if you're looking for a second camera that's going to look just like your FX3, I'd probably still go for an FX30.
Yeah, it's just you have a crop sensor,
Yeah.
right? Like where the FX2 is crop sensor only in 60. But it's weird that they took the A7 IV. Honestly, they changed the body and they added a fan. That's all they did.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's an A7 IV with a fan.
Great camera, but it's known for overheating. So you just eliminated that problem.
Yeah.
I do think there's a market for it, but I really feel like it's the camera that no one asked for. Like everyone wants an FX3 too, or an A7S4. No one wants a hybrid A7 IV when you can have an A7 V that's coming out soon anyway. So I don't understand why they did that. But at the same time, back to the original question before you hijacked it with the FX2. No, you don't have to upgrade your main camera every 2 years. What about you?
Well, it's kind of why I brought this up, is because I definitely don't think you need to do that. But if I'm honest, like, I'm the type of person that, like, I definitely don't have an unlimited budget, but I tend to buy like a good camera that serves all my needs. So for that reason, that camera is going to last me like a few years. Like I had my FX3 for at least 5. Well, I bought it like probably a few months after it came out. But if I'm thinking of like a budget, sort of someone that's more like that, I have a smaller budget and has like a A6100 at the moment, they might be looking at buying an A7 III or an A6400, A6700 maybe. So, they might upgrade much faster because they're going for cheaper cameras. So they're going up like smaller increments, where I just made a big jump and then I'm here for a while. So it all depends on your budget and where you're coming from. But in saying that, I think that today that's the main thing that's changing in the landscape, is that cameras used to come out every, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something like that. Like every brand would have, like, maybe I'm exaggerating, but like let's say 3 years, like Sony would come up with a new camera, and Canon as well, and Nikon or whatever. But now it's like there are all these cameras coming out, so it's not necessarily that the new camera that just came out is supposed to be better than the previous one. That doesn't really apply anymore. It's more, they're building all these different cameras that have slightly different features. So they're not like offering a better camera, they're just offering a different camera. So it's up to you to know what you need for what you do, and say, oh yeah, that one is more for me compared to this one, and like pick the one that fits your needs, and not necessarily just ask the question, what is the best camera for $2,000? So in that sense, if you now, more than ever, you've got so many choices, you can just pick the one that serves your needs, and technically you can stick with that camera forever until maybe your career changes and you start taking more photos, or you start filming, something that needs, like now, like having internal NDs is just like, you would kill to have that, because you just can't be bothered playing with NDs anymore because you're always outside, or like whatever the case may be. Like whatever bugs you is going to be the reason why you need a new camera. But you don't need to upgrade camera every time you just feel like your videos are not as good as they could be. That makes sense.
Yeah, because the gear isn't going to help you make a better video, right? The camera, I mean, you need the idea, you need the angles, there's so many things that go into making a good video. It's not just the camera. Um, I do like how you said about internal NDs and all that, because the thing is, there's always something that you want more out of your camera. So you're never going to find exactly what you want when you're going in a lower price range. You have to go in the higher price range to check more and more boxes. So it is very difficult when choosing a camera. Like for me, when I got the A7 IV, I was doing a lot of hybrid stuff like photos, videos, and all that. So that was the perfect camera at that time. But then when I started shooting more and more, I started running into not running into it. I had it happen once, was an overheating issue. But from that moment on, I was always afraid of overheating issue. So then when I got a second camera, the main goal that I wanted to check off was, this camera cannot overheat. It has to be able to run the whole time. So everybody's going to have their needs and their wants, and it's going to be what fits into your budget. And it is getting harder and harder because there is a new camera every month. And it's crazy. Like Sony just came with the FX2. Now they're going to have another camera that's coming out in another month and a half, they're announcing. So it's like, get something that works, get something you're comfortable with, and stick with it. Trust me, you'll be fine.
Next question. Sorry. Can you really get pro level results with a phone?
I think you can. I really think you can. I mean, I have an iPhone 16 Pro with that Black Magic app.
Must be nice.
That's it. I got through one of our sponsors of Game Day Glare. Did you not get one? I must have forgot to send you yours.
Didn't realize Apple was sponsoring us.
That's it. Oh, we are on Apple Apple Podcast. With the apps that they have, like the Black Magic one, or I use the Moment app, you can achieve some really, really good color grading, which definitely brings your phone videos up a level. So I feel like you can get away with it. And now, like, you've tested all these micro mics and that plug into your phone, and you just put them on the Hollyland mic and all that. So they're coming up with more and more ways to make your phone pro. Do I feel like you could just take your phone out, press the camera app, and get pro level results? No. No, I do not. But if with the right tools added to your phone, I feel like yes, you can.
Well, I think you can, in a sense of like you, as long as you work within the limitations of your phone, which is the same with a camera, any camera, really. As long as you understand the limitations and you work within those, and you get the max quality out of what the phone can produce, then yeah, you can make some really cool stuff. So, like for example, if I was to film sports, I would probably put it on one of those little phone gimbals, which are not that expensive compared to like a real camera gimbal, and I would just try to be as close as possible to the action, because filming from afar, that's when the phone struggles. But so if you can be close to the action and get some nice shots, nice dynamic shots that way, then yeah, you could produce some really cool, some really professional stuff. But the other point as well to make is that typically when you're filming with a phone, 99% of your content will be consumed on phones. And that's where phone photos and videos excel. Like that's where they look their best. Like you take a photo with your phone and you show it to other people on your phone, it looks amazing. You show it to someone on a computer or on a TV and you're like, oh yeah, it's all right. I mean, like there's automatically a difference when you're watching like a big screen with a higher resolution. So as long as it's consumed on the phone, it's always going to look like super. And it's the same thing with any type of content, but like it always going to look better on the phone. But yeah, with the phone content, especially like you know that it's filmed that way. It's probably because it's going to be shown that way as well. So yeah, you can do amazing stuff. You just need to not try to do things that the phone can't do, thinking that you've got like a mirrorless camera in your hands.
You have limitations with the phone, but if you're working with those limitations, you're pretty good. It's definitely the go-to tool for beginners. It's not gonna cost you anything, it's already in your pocket. It's just how to learn to use it, properly. Alright. Do you have to film in 24 frames for cinematic images?
Well, it's again like, do you have to? Probably not. But should you? Yes, because technically that's what like the film industry, like when you're watching like movies, it's usually in that 23.976 frame rate. So if you want your videos to be as close to as possible to that kind of look, then you should probably stick to that frame rate. But but does that mean that filming in 30 will make it look like a sitcom, for example? Like the difference between a movie and a sitcom? Like absolutely not. Like 60 will though, but not 30. So does it make a huge difference? I don't think so, but it's and again, it's a difference that's probably way more noticeable full resolution on a television than it is on a phone. But but it also allows you editing in 24, it allows you to slow your footage a little bit less. So if you're filming in 60 frames per second, it allows you to go down to 40% speed instead of 50 if you need to. So there's I see a lot of pluses by using a 24 frames per second sequence. So personally, that's what I always use. What about you?
I always use a 24, frame sequence also. Um, I don't feel like
Copycat.
24 frames is always cinematic, because when I think of a cinematic shot, I'm thinking nowadays in sports, I'm thinking like slow motion, so I know it's a higher frame rate to achieve that. But yes, my timeline is 24 frames. I film in 24 when I want fast-paced action, because I know I'm not tweaking the image. That's when I film in 24. In interviews, I automatically do 24 because it does make it look more cinematic, but in sports, I feel like there's that gray area where I'm filming in 24 because I'm gonna have fast cuts and fast edits, and my cinematic shots are slow motion, which aren't filmed in 24. If that makes, sense to you.
Hmm. No, it makes sense. Is a monopod better than a tripod to film sports?
So in the world of broadcast, I would say a monopod, no, because we have these massive cameras on these massive tripods, right? But if I'm going to film with my mirrorless camera, then a monopod will trump a tripod for me all the time. But there's one key component that my monopod needs. It needs a fluid head, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to capture all the footage. You just have a monopod and the head doesn't move and you're kind of stuck moving the monopod, and it jerks and your footage doesn't look good and you struggle with that monopod. And if that happens to you, you will never use a monopod again. So if you haven't used a monopod before, make sure your monopod has a fluid head on it, because it's the only way it works.
Yeah, I agree. I think like when I first started filming sports, I was using cameras and lenses that had like zero stabilization in them. So I was using tripods a lot, and it was fine, but it just, like I often say, like variety is the key. Like, so you want to have like mobility, be able to move from one position to the next, and it's a lot easier to do with a monopod than with a tripod. It's a lot just mentally, like it's easier to just pick up your monopod and walk. With a tripod, every time you stop somewhere, you have to, level it, or you might be undoing and doing the legs every time you move. So yeah, a monopod will make it a lot easier on yourself, but like you said, yeah, it needs to be a good one that can actually move around with a good fluid head, so that otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose. But yeah, if you can afford good stabilization and go handheld, that's even better. But yeah, it all depends on what you're filming. And sorry, I think my the postman is here. I'm hearing
Oh,
noises.
it's not your neighbors aren't doing construction again this summer?
I haven't seen my neighbors in months, so I think they ran out of money.
There you go.
No, that was it. Yeah, I think monopods are better, but more because of the fact that it's helps with that mobility, and it's a lot easier to handle than walking around with a tripod everywhere. Is it true that more gear equals better videos?
Yes. Yes. For sure. 100%. No.
Well, what do we mean by more gear?
That is the biggest myth, right? And the thing, when you start uh videography as a professional, you do get in that trap where you feel like you need all this gear, right? And you go and you buy a monopod and a tripod and lenses and gimbals and all this stuff. And the more you film these events, the less gear you actually try to use and try to bring, because you are running around and you are trying to be mobile and you're trying to be light. So it takes you time to figure out your rig and figure out what you're comfortable with. And the things that I've learned is, when I have a good setup, that's all I need. I don't need all the extra stuff. I do bring it. I do bring extra stuff in my car, or just in case something comes up. But honestly, more gear is not the answer. Better pre-production is the answer to better videos. Going in with a game plan, going in with an idea, whether it's a song in your head, whether it's an athlete you're focusing on, whether it's knowing your camera position ahead of time. Like when you went into that basketball game and you knew you didn't have court access, so you already had a plan. I'm shooting from the stands. How I'm going to make this work. That is what makes better videos. It's not going to be the new lens you bought or the new mic system you bought. Yes, gear does improve little parts of your workflow. When I buy gear, it's to improve my workflow. It's not to make a better video.
Yeah, well, yeah, to expand on that, well, I agree, but like to expand on what you just said, I think more gear can help if it's the right gear, basically. So it's if it's something that helps you achieve a certain purpose. So like if you lack stability, then adding a gimbal to your, or a tripod or a hi-hat, whatever it is that you're looking for to add stability to your videos, is going to make a big difference. If your audio is always crap and then you eventually buy a good microphone, then yeah, it's going to improve your video. So if you're adding more gear to address a specific need, then yeah, definitely do it, and it's going to have like very instantaneous results. But but other than that, yeah, just having like a buttload of accessories and lenses and stuff in your backpack that are just sitting there and slowly breaking your back every time you go out filming, that's not changing anything.
Do you have any gear that you like, any small piece of gear that you bought that really improved your workflow? Is there any like anything you can think of off the top of your head? Because I just actually purchased some stuff that actually helped my workflow, and it was something that was so silly. I bought these Arca Swiss plates for my tripod, my monopod, and my teleprompter. And basically, it was just because I was tired of showing up to shoots and having to always screw in the my camera. So now I just have the Arca Swiss plate for all of them. They're all ready to go. It works with my battery. It works with my cages. It works with everything. So now I just put it in, tighten it, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, well, from that perspective, I mean, a V mount battery is always kind of to want to set it and forget it type of thing. So that helps. Again, with batteries, there's having a charger that you can put like 3 or 4 batteries simultaneously also helps, because that way all your batteries are charging. You don't just charge one and then forget to swap, and then you get to a shoot and you've got one good battery and two or three dead ones. But yeah, no, otherwise, I'd say when I got that monitor that has like the ability to like change like focus and exposure and stuff on the monitor itself, that was also helpful. Yeah, there's little things here and there that definitely improved my workflow, but everything else improved something, but not necessarily the workflow itself.
A field monitor with touch focus is a game changer. And I don't have one right now. And it's tricky because I don't understand why on the Sony cameras, you either you have the display where you show everything on your monitor, but then the display on the camera doesn't work. You know? It's like, why can't they could do it, but they don't do it. And everything should be touch focus on your monitor because that's what you're using anyway as your main view.
Yeah, but I don't think it's on every Sony camera anymore though, because mine, I still have this like I can't have like the info, I think, on both. No, I think I can. I don't know. It's a bit weird. There are things that are a bit annoying, like if you have the info, then it's all like that squarey look that you would see on the LCD. Where if I put it clean, then it goes full screen on my monitor. Like there's little things like that, but you can now have like, but it depends on the camera. Basically, you can have like an image on both, which I typically have.
I have image on both, but I don't have the menu on both. You know what I mean? Like, I
Oh,
like to
okay,
see the
okay,
menu.
okay.
That's what I meant. Like the menu, like you have it on one or the
Yeah,
other with the Sonys.
I think, yeah, because when I do like, well, I don't know. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I feel like, yeah, when I do like spot focus and all that sort of stuff, I obviously see that all that stuff on my screen, but I also have it on the LCD because it never leaves my LCD. Basically, it's just what I can get on the monitor that's a bit tricky.
Okay, so mine on the field world, I either have it on my camera or I have it on my monitor. Never both.
See, it's a feel
Yeah,
word thing.
that's it.
No,
That's
but
it.
it could be an A74 thing, like maybe I don't
No,
know.
but even on my FX3, same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong as well. I don't want to commit to anything.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
Exactly. Do you need to shoot everything handheld to get that hype look?
I'm gonna say yeah, only because I prefer to shoot handheld. I don't know what it is. I just like it better handheld. I feel more in control. I feel less constricted. I feel like I can get any shot that I really need handheld. But there are some cons, you know. You have a little bit of shake, um, you know, and sometimes you get bumped, especially in a sporting event. And if you get bumped, your footage you can't really use that shot where you got bumped in that. But something about the hype look, like it gives it a hype look because it feels real. It feels like you're there. I like those little uncontrollable jitters in my footage a bit.
Yeah. Well, I agree about filming handheld. Like I do it all the time, but I don't think you need it to for your footage to look hype. Like, because I was saying at the beginning, I think sports is one of those things that you don't need, like, specifically or use the word need, camera movement at all, because you can have just like a static frame and just have the action in front do all the moving around for you. So so for that reason, and that's how I was filming for the longest time. Like when I was shooting on tripods, I was only just static, unless I'm like filming super close up and following the ball. But otherwise, it was like a static shot and just let people go in and out of my frame, sort of thing. But yeah, so yes, I don't think it's necessary, but I do like to film handheld, but for very different reasons. Just because I like to walk around. Like I said before, like mobility is my priority. Like I try to be light, and so that it's easier to go everywhere and move around, and be easy to film from anywhere at any time, sort of thing.
Last one. And this is how you got into sports videography. Can you only make it in sports videography if you know someone in the industry? So you knew me. So that's how you got in, right? No, we met there. No, but everyone always thinks you need to know somebody to get in. So what do you think? Is that a myth? Can you confirm it, or does it depend?
No, I think it's a myth. I think it's if anything, it might have been true many years ago, but now with social media, I mean, you don't need to know anyone. You can just network on social media by posting your content, tagging people, and you meet people that way. Like they see your stuff, they're impressed, they remember you, and so yeah, you don't need to know them technically. It's just same as like the music industry and the movie industry. Like nowadays, you can make your name on YouTube or on Spotify or things like that, and get discovered without having to know someone in the industry that's gonna, introduce you to a record label mogul and sign you. And then like there's many other ways to do that, where 20 years ago that was the only way.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I do think it helps. It does help if you do know someone in the industry, because then you can have a foot in the door to show them, your footage, show them your edits, show them that you have what it takes. But yeah, network is probably the best way. And views, if you can get an athlete some views and people see that you're working with an athlete, that's definitely get you in the door to work with a pro sports team a lot faster than knowing somebody there, because there's a lot of red tape nowadays. And we joke around when you see some of these job descriptions that these these teams put out. Like, I don't even think I'd be able to get my old job back, because they add so many layers of software and stuff that you're never going to know. But they put it through ChatGPT and they're like, hey, what am I looking for in the sports videographer position? And they just list everything. Nobody knows all that software. Nobody knows all that stuff. So don't worry about it. Just have good content, have good ideas, and pitch yourself, and you should be fine.
So basically, everything on the list was a myth.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And we agreed a lot. So,
yeah.
But it is funny that we do get a lot of the same questions over and over again from listeners. And the number one thing is always like, what camera should I get? What should I shoot at? And how do I get the gig? And they're usually the same answers, like shoot with what you have, practice, and network. Those are the things that will help you the most. And there's things that we still work on today, right? Like I still try and network every time I go to an event. I make new friends or meet new people. You add them on LinkedIn, you add them on Facebook, you follow their Instagram, and it's the only way that you're going to grow. And by practicing, I still practice stuff. I still try and learn stuff every day. And I just watch Beyond the Game, and that's how I learn all this stuff.
Amen.
Amen.
That's a great way to finish.
That's it. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare. Take care, guys.
See you.